I started from nothing, never knew where my next meal was coming. But I transformed my life, I stay one step ahead. Mindset of disruption, I own the edge. This is the Thrill Cast, where I bring the wisdom you need. Everyone is selling knowledge, I give mine away for free. I'm as real as it gets, you either love or hate me. Best believe I'm Major League Bill Hines, that's me. This is the Thrill Cast. This is the Thrill Cast. This is the Thrill Cast.
Hey, on this week of the Thrill Cast, we have a good friend and fellow race car driver, Burt Jenner. Burt is coming to us live via Zoom from somewhere on the West Coast. Location TBD, or we won't disclose his location, I guess. So, Burt, how you doing, buddy?
I'm hanging in there, my man. About 30 minutes ago, I got real excited, and I don't know why, because I don't want to say I despise these formats, but I hate talking about myself. But I got excited because just to be that much closer back to my SST family, and it just kind of felt good. It just felt like, for an hour here or whatever we end up talking for, I got to go back to being a race car driver. And
that's predominantly what we want to talk to you about, and obviously your dogs and your puppies and stuff like that, and your beautiful family. But didn't the producer tell you this is a 5-hour podcast? So it's like an endurance race. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Well, you'll get 4 hours of mumbling and me repeating myself, and you'll get an hour of footage,
We'll just put your kids on, and your wife can come on and start talking. But yeah, so let's tell everyone, let's go just back from the beginning. And I don't mean the beginning from when you were born, but tell everyone, because it's an interesting story. So at one point, you were homeless. And you were living in a Bronco, not the white OJ Bronco, but a Bronco, a
maroon and gold Bronco,
that you still have to this day. You will not sell it. Like it's like you'll have to die before you'll sell that one. And but tell me like how you started in like video games, racing on video games, and then you did that Octane Academy thing. It's like.
Well, racing on video games. So most people don't realize most of my race car experience, with the exception of karting, and I was a Formula driver in the Skip Barber series for a while, but most of my experience behind the wheel comes on a simulator. And most people know it now as the iRacing simulator, but back then it was Pyrus, and it was the NASCAR platform, and I started my own series. I had hopes to I thought the simulators were good enough that I believed that talent would transfer over into the real world, and you could take that talent and actually put it in a real car and pursue a racing career. So I had a series, it was called Pros. It stood for Professional Racing Online Series. And we gave away $50,000 prize money in the championship. And then whoever won, we flew you out to the Northwest. There was a local, late model series up there. We put you in a real car and tried to start, a racing career for you. And after a couple seasons of that, my father, who thought I was crazy, was at the golf course with just so happened to be in his foursome, the head of programming for Speed TV.
Yep.
And after asking my dad, so what are all your kids doing and all this stuff, my dad said, hey, you know what? I have this one crazy son who has this racing idea, and he thinks he's about ready to buy infomercial time in the middle of the night on your TV channel. And the guy turned around and told him, well, that's genius. And anyway, I got a meeting. We eventually partnered with Universal. We approached NASCAR and got ungodly close to, now iRacing is like the 4th level racing. If you go look on the NASCAR website, we got ungodly close to being that series years before. We failed because of contract negotiations. Basically, EA Sports, the biggest video game company in the world, had bought the rights to the NASCAR name, which, kind of closed the door on me. They built a video game and not a simulator. and they didn't want to invest in development. So all my little idea just kind of fell apart there. But I was close to being the simulator racing god, and people don't realize how many hours and years I spent behind a wheel on a simulator.
You were ahead of your time. Just think if COVID happened during your time back then, it would have been.
Yeah, it's frustrating to know how close I got and walked away with nothing. But yeah, after that, I was just kind of dead in the hole. And my dad has never been one to support me financially. And my mom wouldn't either. So I kind of went through a weird period there where I was just kind of lost. I was a bouncer at a tequila bar, and a motorcycle courier delivering packages here through the city streets of LA and traffic, and living in the back of my Bronco.
So not to interrupt you, but you did mention your dad. So for the listeners that don't know who Burt Jenner's dad is, can you explain, who your dad is so that they know? Because some people would say, well, why would he expect his dad to financially support him? But you didn't. So,
my dad is Caitlyn Jenner.
Okay.
I probably don't look like it. I know I probably don't look like Kendall and Kylie.
Formerly Bruce Jenner, the Olympic athlete and gold medalist champion, and your sisters and brothers are what? Kylie and Kendall,
Kylie, Brandon, and Brody, and my only full blood is Casey, and so we share the same mom. All my other siblings, we have different moms, but same dad.
Okay.
And to give you my family lineage, I know it gets complicated, and so I guess I was kind of homeless there for a little bit, and wandering through life. Went to a dog park because I didn't have a couch to hang out on. And my dog, and I was living in my car with my dog. And so I would go to the dog park to hang out, and small talk with the dog walkers there led me to, how much do you charge? And it was $30. And she got offended because I asked how much per dog per day. And it was $30 per dog per day. And I kind of looked down going, you're making $150 to sit here for 45 minutes on your cell phone? And she was horrible with dogs, and that just kind of spawned the idea that, look, man, I'm over here wrestling drunk idiots in the middle of the night, and I'm not making $150. And I could be hanging out on a dog bench and making $150 for the day and hanging out for 45 minutes. And so I pursued that goal, and here we are 15 years later, and I have pretty much the biggest dog boarding facility and daycare facility, whatever, grooming in Los Angeles. And I'm in the process of opening my second facility.
So most people don't know, or people that do know, but Burt is the founder and owner of West LA Dogs. And it is the premier, he gave me a tour of it. And literally, if you're out in the California area, in that area, and you need to board or house your dog somewhere if you're going on vacation. I mean, there's some actors and actresses that leave their dog with Burt for months at a time, whether they're off in Australia or wherever, filming, movies or what have you. And I'm telling you, like, when the owner comes back, they don't want to leave because Valerie and Burt, his wife Val, they take care of the dogs better than the owners. And so West LA Dogs, if you're out there, it is like a palatial palace for dogs. It's amazing. I was so impressed.
Are you able to say some really famous dogs that you take care of?
I don't think you will.
I'll just start by saying it seems like we literally have, I'm so bad and so tuned out that I don't know who the majority of these people are. But my coworkers will say to me all the time, like, "Don't you know who that is?" No, I don't.
Burt don't care.
I'm embarrassed to say that, but we have a lot of telenovela stars. It seems like we have almost all of them. And
what is that? Exactly.
The Spanish speaking channel.
Oh, okay.
Like every high-ranking actor or actress on the telenovela, or any of the Spanish movies or any of that kind of stuff. For whatever reason, there was one of their biggest stars came to us years ago, and it just seemed like every Spanish-speaking actor or actress in Los Angeles was quick to follow that one. And
your mom and dad and sisters and brothers give their dogs to you when they need to go away?
For free, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only free work I do,
Yeah.
And that's, I'll end that there. But yes, I get a lot of free requests from family all the time.
Yeah.
And can you take care of my friends' dogs and my friends' dogs, and which ends up being half of Los Angeles. But
Yeah, they don't understand how much food costs and employees
right,
to take
and
care of that.
some of these dogs are knuckleheads, and it takes some work, but it's a good business, something I'm very proud of, because I was able to start it with nothing and kind of grow to the top. So yeah,
I'm always impressed with how you and your employees, they, when I went there, it's like they were so kind to the dogs and to, all of, the animals. And that's what it's about. And more importantly than that, even you guys are, advocates for, like, or against, like the shelters that kill dogs. So you're like into, helping out no kill shelters and advocating for adoption and against, all the different breeders that are bad in this world, So, I mean, how many dogs do you personally own yourself right now?
4 now.
Yeah.
I just unfortunately had to put my closest dog, the dog that slept under the covers with me for the past 10 years, had to put him down.
Oh, really?
14 years old. So I'm now down from 5 to 4.
Which one was that?
Happy.
Happy. Oh,
yeah. So that was rough, but a few months in here, trying to pick my next victim. One of my 4 dogs got to spend the night sleeping under the covers with me.
It is what is Margarita Del Rey? Isn't that the one?
Yeah, Margarita.
Yeah.
She would be next in line, but she has her spinal injury.
Injury.
Yeah, she has a hard time holding it. So I don't want to be waking up, with a bed full of piss and shit. If I can be brutally honest there.
If you wanted that was your younger days.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's funny. So, okay, and take us to now, like how you got involved.
How did I go from homeless to racing?
How did you? So you're starting your business, and you're just like, what? And most people don't know, but Caitlin was an amazing race car driver, phenomenal, and
that's how I got the bug.
So obviously all your brothers and sisters, they do different things, but the one key connection that you have, and you're the oldest Jenner, that key connection is the love of racing from your dad. And It's interesting, your dad and you were on an endurance race together against me and Alex Prema. And we beat you that race, but
no, you didn't.
Yeah, we did. I got a picture. I'm going to post a picture.
Yeah, and I've got the updated results. It's very, very clear. As much as I love you, we've gone enough years now that we can settle this right here, right now.
The picture on the podium.
Everybody started the race. They very clearly had more speed than us. And so very early on, I knew that we were going to have to do something funky.
You were holding your dad back. Just kidding. Just getting out of it.
So we were going to have to do something funky to get some speed. And so I realized the only way to do that was going to be to pit out of sequence. Okay. So and that worked for us because we got lucky, and there was, a wreck halfway through, and they threw the yellow. And so we were able to get all our track position back. And anyway, there are all these mandatory rules they had, but I still stand by the fact that we got our track position back, and we essentially got a lap out of it. And that was something that you guys weren't able to overcome there in the end. But
I don't know. The picture has me and Alex on the podium in one.
This is true.
But in fairness, in the other weekends that we had that you and your dad raced, when it was the solo races, you won those races. I don't know who came in second, but I know your dad came in third a couple times. So how was it? We'll get to the Octane Academy because we're on this in a minute. But how cool was it that you raced in an actual solo race against your father? And I asked this to Matt. Well, Matt Bradman wasn't able to do it, but like say Nash Morris and Paul Morris, things like that, and or Marco and Michael Andretti, they raced against each other. So how was it that one, you beat your dad, and two, that you're able to race and stand on the podium? Like there were 2 Jenners on the podium there, and I always say it to you guys, that Jenners are just champions.
total trippy experience. So, my dad drove for Ford and Jack Roush. My dad's teammate was Scott Pruitt.
Yep.
No slouches in racing. And so my dad's ego has always been, up there. But as far as racing was concerned, my dad had taken me to the go-kart track when I was like 7 to 9 years old, and had sat on the sidelines with a stopwatch and would just literally hold up a couple fingers, meaning, the tenths, it's a 24.3 or 24.1 or whatever it was. And so I would know whatever tenths of a second I had come by on that lap. But other than that, that was it. And, my father remarried, and that was the extent of what my father had done in helping me in racing, was literally just kind of teaching me what an apex was before I was 10 years old. I spent enough time in Jack Roush's pit that I fell in love with racing.
Yeah.
But I fell in love, to be totally honest, with Scott Pruitt kicking everybody's ass. And
yeah, he did. Yeah, he was really good.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he's one of the greats of my time, and someone I'll always look up to, probably above anybody else. But there was always this argument, I had kind of continued in my own racing endeavors, taking myself to the go-kart track when I was finally 16 and I could drive myself, and really went after the racing thing, and it was something I wanted to pursue as a career. Yeah. And my father never showed up to one of those races. So my father had no idea how much of a passion I had, what my talent was at.
How good you are.
Just nothing. Yeah, he just really didn't. And, in fairness, my karting career wasn't necessarily the best. I'm 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
I'm 200 pounds. I'm a big guy, and we don't do good in karting. So I quickly realized I was wasting all my money, kind of pooled it all together and went for the Formula Car Series, Skip Barber, and instantly won the first 2 races and found myself up against, the national champion karters who were all sponsored doing this stuff. And I was walking away with the wins. But, that led me to go back to my dad going, hey, I've got some talent here. Can I get some help? No. And dad still never came to a race, still never helped me out. So if we skip through Octane Academy and all that, and fast forward to that experience, which you helped us out with, and for which I will ever, forever be grateful. That was a trippy experience. It was obviously something I wanted to do and share with my dad for a long time. But the reality,
you guys did it a couple
times.
To prove. You guys did it a couple times. Like, I mean, Caitlin came back, I think 2 or 3 times to the races. Obviously, yeah.
My dad loves it. So
yeah.
It doesn't, time doesn't, I don't think, cure that itch. It just slows you down a little bit around the track, but you still have that same love and passion. And my dad,
actually, your dad just posted a YouTube video, and I actually enjoy watching your dad's, like, now your dad's doing these YouTube videos. You probably don't even know about it.
No, I've watched a few. I was nervous in the beginning for this new channel, but I've realized, thank God for Sophia, cutting my dad down to size and keeping my dad honest. So
the one is with, she basically says, hey, look at my garage. And, obviously that's the coolest thing. She's like, hey, I almost lost this house to the fire, and showed a picture of it. And and I know you went out there to help. Like, you rushed there to help your dad, which to me, I was like, say what you want to say and everything, but that's a son that loves his dad. And
or that garage. I was
garage.
My dad literally drove down
the bug eye,
the bottom of the hill and evacuated with everybody in a 2018 Escalade or something.
Yeah.
Like that. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, you left the Porsche up there and the MG, and I just was like,
the bug eye. God. Yeah. So that was so cool to see the bug eye, which is a cool car, the Porsche, which, your dad always gets the coolest, fastest Porsche, like always delivered first. So she definitely has that connection to Porsche, obviously. I wonder why. I guess an Olympic gold medal kind of puts you on the top of some lists. But, so it was cool to see that, because it's like, that's where Burt gets that love of racing for. Again, it's that. And it's so cool to see. Like, honestly, I don't have any type of memory of my father. My father left when I was 3, so I don't have, even with my mom, like there's nothing I share in common that I can say is like, oh yeah, I like that. I mean, I don't know. I guess I could say, yeah, I like Italian food because my mom likes Italian food and my mom's Italian. But other than that, it was special to see you and her at the track together, and even like when when Marco Andretti put it on pole at the Indy 500, you could look at Michael and Mario Andretti and see how special that meant. So I know when you were on the podium winning, I saw your dad looking over at you like, yeah, that's my son. And she even posted about it on her Instagram, like, yeah, I'm racing with my son Burt, and he's kicking ass. And then she also used to come to the Stadium Super Truck races too, which was fucking awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the coolest moments of my life, again, after Octane Academy, and we had picked up, Gladiator tires as a sponsor, who before that had wanted us to drive for a Ford Giotto tire line in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo series. So this was the first time that I had ever got to drive in front of my father. Jesus, I was probably 37 years old, and the last time I had driven in front of my father, I was probably 9. So the
karting? First time was in Super Trofeo or SST? Oh, okay.
Super Trofeo. And
you did pretty good in that series, I heard.
Yeah. I unfortunately, I don't know if this thing shows up here on the
scar. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Wrong way. Oh,
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Not so much, but you can.
Yeah, I could see. We could see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of screwed up that year, but I'll never forget my first test session. My dad, just in disbelief, of course, my dad went first in case I wrecked the car. And then my dad gets out of the car after, about an hour on these tires. And then I go out, and I think I handed my dad her ass by like 4 seconds or something.
Yeah.
A lap. And my dad is just in disbelief and looking around, just not going, what the hell just happened, And he turns to my brother and goes, that's Scott Pruitt fast.
Yeah.
And just the silence, like she just could not believe it. And
your dad actually,
no, it was not Scott Pruitt fast, but it was fast.
It was close.
And it was fast enough that my dad knew that I was in a different category. And it was something that no matter how hard she tried, she just wasn't going to be able to touch that lap time. And
at an EXR race, your dad actually said, it was like, we were just shooting the shit. And she told me that story, whereas like, yeah, I realized like, oh my goodness, my son's just as fast as Scott Pruitt. And literally, I think she said you were like within a half a second of him. And right. She's like, and like just crushing. But then obviously because of her ego, she was like, well, if I was younger, I'd be right there with both of them. Like, he's got some, my son's younger. And
yeah, that's what makes my dad a champion. My dad does not accept that defeat well, and
he deservedly so. Like that's a person that has backed up everything that she has said. Like she was at one point the greatest athlete in the world. Like that's not even, you can't even say arguably,
Yeah, and there are some personality traits that I think
go with
unfortunately come along with being the best at that level. But there's no denying my dad's competitive spirit. So,
and you believe me, you have that, because I mean I've seen you, and we'll get into that later. Some Stadium Super Truck races. You know where I'm going with this? Where it's actually funny. And one time CBS Sports was interviewing you, and it's like, yeah, once I put that helmet on, I could win the race or I can lose the race. I still want to kick everyone's ass. Like, and you meant like out of the truck physically, like you want to, like it takes about 15 minutes to a half hour to calm down before you don't want to like just.
Yeah.
Am I right?
I mean, I would say, I don't know, 15 minutes, a half hour, but there is a true legitimate 2-minute period where every time I get out of the car, even if I've won,
even if
I pass the poor bastard, I still want to get out of the car, go back, and just start swinging on him. I don't know why. It just feels.
That's if they did you wrong. If it was like a clean race. So like, remember, I was there. I watched it. I had a great. I was behind you guys, and your first ever SST race that you won was I forget the year, 15 or 16 it might have been, and it was at the 15 at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, Florida, and you absolutely dominated the race from like start to finish, and Sheldon Creed and EJ Vizo were battling right behind you, and they were close, but they could never get a run on you because they were fighting with each other. And I was like, man, if that was actually Burt fighting like that, Burt would want to kill one of them because both of them, like, one would do one dirty, one do the other dirty. And I'm watching the whole thing. I'm like, man, I said, they're just letting Burt get away. Now they're not letting you. You're just getting away because you took advantage of that situation to where it's like, well, if they're doing that, I'm just going to race clean lines. And you literally walked away with that race. Like, I was like, man, Burt, he'll take that win, but I think Burt would have probably liked a race where he beat the guy at the line by like 1,000th of 1 second, right? But you probably were like, don't fuck up this last hairpin.
Yeah, no, literally, I give Sheldon some credit for handling it as well as he does. Him and EJ had some great battles. I definitely would not have been able to keep my composure the way Sheldon did and leave it on. I mean,
so you think it was see, I think it was an equal thing. I think it was a racing incident. I think, EJ was giving it back. And I know, in Las Vegas, you and EJ, there's a video out there somewhere. I think SST should post that.
I was always surprised that they didn't. That was right after the big NASCAR fight. And that was probably the best thing to ever happen to NASCAR to bring excitement back. And I thought for sure Robbie being the showman that he is would definitely post that video, but I guess thankfully now that I'm a father and
I think they're going to post it. I really think the marketing team, I think in future, like the hey, look at this in the past. And because here's the thing, what people don't understand, like in stadium super trucks, we're taking a vehicle and we're launching it in the air for 20, 30 feet in the air for sometimes 200, 300 feet in distance. It's like everything you're told not to do in a race car, you're doing in a stadium super truck. And it's between, I like to say it's uncontrolled chaos, but it's part boxing match, part racing, because like we're taking an absolute thrashing, a beating in that truck. Like after the next day, we have to race again, and we're sore. And, we need massages and chiropractic and electric stim. Like, we're doing everything to get ready for the next fight, as you know. And it takes a special nut job to jump in a truck and do that. And you were one of the best at it and still are. And I think if, you had time and you were doing daddy duties and husband duties and West LA dog duties, if you got into the next race, you'd probably be on the podium or competing for a win because you don't lose that.
Yeah, it's been hard to watch you guys have fun and sit on the sidelines and commentate. It's like my dirty little pleasure. It drives Valerie nuts when she sees me watch the videos because she knows where my mind is going.
Armchair quarterbacking, right?
Yeah, and she just knows, like, once I watch a video, then I'm going to want to call Robbie and go back down that wormhole. And so she just goes, don't do it. And then I get mad at her because she's being negative for no reason about me just watching a racing video. So it's my guilty pleasure late at night, to fire up the latest SST race and watch it on YouTube or Facebook. But yeah, I still keep my finger crossed that someday, I walked away because Bodie was 2 weeks away from being born, and Matt Mingay got hurt,
badly hurt. That was a tough day for us.
Hard to describe. And the week before that, another extremely good friend named Andrew Palmer, who had put Bentley on the first time for the podium, I believe, since the 40s. The next day in a doubleheader, lost his brakes going into turn one in the World Challenge Series. And so he's now in a wheelchair. It was just hard to see that happen to two good friends back to back like that. And I was scared, man. I just knew that my priority was to meet my son and to be a dad. And but now I'm in this weird position of, even though my dad wasn't necessarily there for me on a day-to-day basis, my dad always did have that Superman personality. Like, I still say to my kids, Bodie will tell me, like, I'm getting tired. I'm like, what? Use your Jenners. He calls it my Jenners because of my tattoo on my side.
That's funny.
But, I tell him, like, dude, you're a Jenner. Like, no, you're not tired. Like, get your ass up, And so that was something that I can't lie was always part of my psyche. And that was a gift from my father. And so I want my kids to see me compete and see me win. And hopefully I'll just instill that in them, that, at the end of the day, if you want to win bad enough, you will. And so figure out whatever it's going to take to do it. So,
well, you're too young to be officially retired from SST. So I definitely know, and even recently talking to Robbie, that there's always a home for you in SST, even though you and Robbie sometimes argue. But you know how Robbie can be. And Robbie's passion. Robbie, even though he's
driver just like the rest of us.
Robbie's like, as a competitor, I hate to see Burt in a race because he's going to give it back to me and he's not going to take anyone's shit, right? And he's like, but as the series owner, he's good for the brand, he's good for the series, but where he's bad for the series is that if somebody gives him shit, he's wrecking everyone.
No, look, that is Viso and Viso only, and
But it's
So
it's like
we got to give the Viso story its due credit. So,
which
Viso,
one?
if you're out there and you're listening, just let me preface this with, my man, I love you.
But here's the thing. We actually had Paul Morris on, so Paul Morris was on the previous episode. So the Thrillcast listeners heard a story about where him and EJ got into it, and it was in Townsville, Australia, and EJ was complaining that Paul spun him, and Paul's like, well, EJ was doing me dirty the whole race, and he goes, the only two people that really know what happened in that race is me and EJ. Because if you looked at the cameras, it looked like Robbie was like, EJ, nobody touched you. And then, Paul Morris, he had that little shitty grin on his face.
Right.
And literally Paul was able to do it where it wasn't caught on any camera. And,
right.
and he's like, yeah, only me and EJ know what happened.
Right.
So it's funny, like, I can talk to Sheldon, I could talk to Burt Jenner, I could talk to Ari Lyondike, I could talk to Paul Morris. Everyone has a problem with EJ Viso. So tell me your story.
And look, off the track, EJ,
amazing.
I can't say I don't got a bad thing to say about the guy. I love him more than anything. On the track, he was my villain. He was the guy that I just, we put the helmets on, and there's one car that I'm not going to give an inch to. It's that one.
Because he's so good. If you beat AJ Viso,
you cannot take that away from him. He will find every last tenth of a second of speed in whatever car he's put in. That's undeniable. The problem that I always had was if you're that good, then, let the chips fall where they may. And, as your job as a race car driver, it is your job to go out there and win.
Yeah.
But at what cost? And so the one problem we have in SST, for those that don't know, look, we're out there racing on all these tracks in incredibly, incredibly tough trucks. These trucks can so the race course is not defined by the race course. You can straight shot through the flower beds. You can jump curbs like you don't even understand. You can skip corners if you wanted to. And, EJ, I don't know if he was one of the first to figure this out. I assume Robbie might have been the first to figure it out.
Robbie, yeah.
EJ just figured out, I'm going to do it better.
Well, Robbie did that time in Long Beach where EJ was leading the race, and then he waited till like a lap to go, and then remember Robbie cut that like turn 5 or 6 in Long Beach.
Coming onto that almost back short stretch. I know exactly.
Yeah.
The first of the back two stretch, and I'm sure he did. And so, that's the challenge in SST, is defining what is the racetrack. And so, you've been in the drivers' meetings. We do our best to define it, and then
almost
someone comes out, clips a cone or clips a barrel, and then all of a sudden that definition has been moved.
Yeah.
But what is it now? And it just was always like, it seemed like EJ was the first to take off the gloves, and well, the cone moved. So therefore, it got knocked over 10 feet that way. And so therefore that means I can go through the grass 10 feet.
Or if a chicane got blown out, it was like chicane wasn't there. I went straight
through it. And so I totally get the gray area there. It was always, to me, seemed to be EJ that was the first one doing it. And if there was anyone, everyone else might have been 2 tires, 3 tires in the grass. EJ would come by and take all 4.
All 4 and you with them, sometimes.
Right. And I guess we started off on the wrong foot because at Detroit, while leading my first race, I thought I was going to walk away with the win.
You were
EJ went for a dive bomb from, I believe it was somewhere around like 6 cars back.
Oh yeah.
He couldn't hold on to it. He had blown everything, but I, not seeing him coming, had started to turn into the corner. He clips me, takes me out. I don't get the win. We had a good enough lead that he was able to bounce off me and continue on to the win.
Yeah, he literally bounced off you. You basically, from hitting you.
Yeah,
it made him break. He bounced off you and took off.
Right. And so without saying anything, I'm in the hauler all pissed off that just happened. And he came into the hauler, and the first thing he said to me was, "Hey, man." And EJ, I know you remember this moment. Yeah. He's like, "Hey, man, you seen my trophy?" And I looked at him and I said, "Seen your what?" He says, "Hey, man, you see my trophy?" "What the fuck did you say?" Yeah. We're literally standing in a hauler all by ourselves. And so just to be a dickhead, "The fuck did you say to me?" He's like, hey, man, calm down. Like, take it easy, man. There's no problems here. I say, "Hey, man, you fucking took me out, and the first thing you're going to come in here and say to me is, have you seen my fucking trophy?" "Hey, man, calm down, No. That's not how this works, dude."
Yeah.
And so that just, maybe I shouldn't have handled it the right way. Maybe he should have, but that's how I really
that was that one-upsmanship, gamesmanship, he was definitely trying to get under your skin to be like, hey, see, and he came from like 5th place in that one corner. Like he dove bomb everybody.
Right.
And then just you happened to be turning in. He was on the inside and he like punted you out of the way, used you as a stopper. Because if you weren't there, he was hitting those tires.
Right, exactly.
He was fucked. So, yeah.
Just shit luck. And, I'm not going to say I don't bang doors and I don't do all the good stuff.
No, listen, you race very clean, and I've seen you race clean against PJ Jones and Ari Lyon Dyke Jr. and Sheldon and Robbie but thing is that fucking BJ Baldwin, all these guys that were in there, and when somebody does you dirty, you're not gonna, like, sometimes shit early on in the early days in like 2014 and 2015, if somebody did me dirty, I'd just let them go. I wouldn't even get back at them. I was like, fuck it. What am I going to do? I'm just going to use this. Now I'm taken out. I spun out. I'm just going to use these. I'm now 30 seconds back because someone took me out. I'm just going to use the rest of the race as a practice. That was my mentality. Now if somebody does me dirty, or I see, like, being the older veteran, like in this past race in Adelaide, earlier this year, it's actually Sean Richardson. He did Brock Feeney. Was it Brock Feeney? I forget who it was. One of the drivers dirty, and I saw him like almost chop him. You know how you have to give someone room going off the jump side by side. Well, he pushed him off the ramp, so he almost like went off the ramp, but luckily he got around it. So down at turn 9 in Adelaide, I went through the kink at 8 and at 9. I just didn't stop. He turned in, and I just went right into his back. I went into his back tire, kind of like what EJ did with you. It bounced off him, popped his tire, and went. And I was like, hey, if you're not going to respect the other drivers, I'm going to make you respect the other drivers. And he goes, got it, mate, And that's how you've always been.
You can't start to get pushed around, or, it's a dog-eat-dog world, and it's just going to happen more and more and more,
Yeah.
So, yeah, EJ and I had our fun. Not as much fun as we had in Vegas.
Vegas was...
So I guess back to the Vegas story.
Yeah, I had to get, just so everyone knows, I had to get 3 big, very big Samoan bodyguards to not beat up Burt, meaning just to tell Burt, like actually to save EJ from Burt.
Yes.
Talking
And so
to him.
I had no idea this was the case. And it just so happened I had brought house beer there as a sponsor who had given me a bunch of beer to give away and everything. And I never forget, and I now in hindsight, I put it all together. But going up, I'm trying to hand beers out. And so I walk up to these Samoans and I'm like, hey, you guys want a beer?
Yeah.
And they looked at me like, again, they knew that they were there for me. I had no idea that they're there for me. And I'm over here trying to offer them a beer.
Yeah.
But, as far as EJ and I were concerned, in that SST world, just to give you an example, there were 3 practice sessions.
Yeah.
There was actually only 2 for the drivers, but we had new drivers there. And because they were slower and we wanted to help them get up to speed and be competitive, we gave them an extra practice session.
Yeah, we gave them extra session.
But the regulars in the series were not allowed to go out. And so, I was, of course, keeping tabs here, and I'm going, if there's Vizo's going to go out for all 3 practice sessions. I don't know how or why, but watch, he's going to go.
Yeah.
And sure enough, here he comes out for the 3rd practice session. And so before he even went out, I was sitting there and freaked out and started, telling Robbie, what the hell is he doing? And all this other shit, and flipped him off. And, he flipped me off back. And so here we go. And so after that practice session, I went over there and I told him, like, hey man, I knew you'd go out for all 3 practice sessions. And he had probably a justified reason, but for some reason I knew there was going to be a justified reason and he was going to do it. And so I told him, hey, look, I don't have a sponsor for next year. This is my last race. I have nothing to lose. And if you touch me during this race, if you do me dirty, I am warning you right now, you're done. And I'm going to take it out on you after this race like you don't even know. And so here comes the last lap.
Yeah.
And we were separated by Gavin Harlan. I believe it was Harlan.
Gavin, yeah.
And EJ comes in and I guess tries to move him out of the way, which it was a tight track, and he comes in and essentially can't control it and moves me out of the way. But somehow all of our bumpers got intertwined and were locked.
Connected, yeah, all 3 of you.
Yeah, we couldn't make it over the jump, and we're literally stuck in the infield, all of us.
It was the worst place to have a wreck because, you're going up a jump that's a massive jump. That could have hurt somebody.
Right,
for sure.
the over-under. So that's, you
Yeah.
you got to imagine you got to jump, which literally jumps over the racetrack, and we're not going to make it.
No way.
So we're all sitting there like a bunch of buffoons, doing burnouts and reverse and forward and everything, trying to get ourselves unhooked. I finally get myself unhooked from Vizo. I back up like 15 yards. I realize no, they're coming around for the checkered right now. Like if I pull back out and I try and finish this lap, we're racing for last, And that was it. That was the end of, as far as I was concerned, my SST experience, my SST career, if you will. And I told Vizo how this is going down. So rather than continue on with the racetrack, I just put that thing in drive and rammed him. And there's a shot literally with my front 2 tires up on his hood.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a burnout, and I'm giving him the
finger.
The 1 finger salute.
You're telling him who's number 1.
Exactly. And so I sit on his hood for a few minutes and doing the burnout, and then I finally back it up, and then the yelling and screaming and everything happened. And we pull into the pits, and I'll never forget telling John's stories, going, Burt, don't do it. And I said, John, don't worry.
I don't care.
Give you my word, I will not touch him. I literally said, it was good for NASCAR. It's going to be good for SST.
Yeah.
And I ran around over to Vizo's car, and sure enough, there were the Samoans guarding him. And you guys had a pretty good game plan going on. He was still strapped in. He had his big Samoans out the windows. He had his helmet on. He wasn't taking the helmet off. I was going to get him. Yeah, he was protected. And so I just kind of foamed at the mouth for a minute, and then that was the end of that.
You guys calmed down, yeah.
Yeah.
But off the track, you guys can hang out and have fun.
No, I mean, off the track, I love the guy. And look, man, it's been years, and I try and envision what my SST experience would have been like without EJ. and it wouldn't have been the same. And I love the guy. He made it fun for me. And
But the thing about all the times you
all our
won.
struggles, man, it's like he was still a benefit to the series.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Well, he's one of the best. I mean, he's
oh yeah,
won so many races, and think about when you win these races, you're beating the EJ Vizos, the Robbie Gordons, the Sheldon Creeds, the Matt Brabhams, the Paul Morrises. Like when you're racing, the Matt Mingies of the world, you're beating very talented people. You're not just beating slouches. Like, no offense, when you were in Skip Barber winning races, I mean, come on, like who were they?
Michael Valiente.
Well, I know.
Brian Sellers. These are all now factory drivers.
Well, they are, but they're very good. But my point is, at that point, it's like, you're going to get up against, like, say, a Paul Morris, who is the only driver ever to win all 3 categories at Bathurst. You're going against Robbie Gordon, who's a Baja, IndyCar, NASCAR legend. EJ Vizo, Brabham, whose family is synonymous with racing. Like, no offense against those other guys, they're equally as good, but like, they're in SST, the whole field is stacked. And it's funny when you said the racetrack isn't defined, like. So Sean Sermini, the one announcer, he's like, "Oh, I see what they're doing here. They're off in the Glamis section. Like they name the different sections. Like it could be an asphalt race, but we'll find a way to take it off-roading somewhere." Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's a great time. We're all like, hey, after the race, we're all brothers and sisters. Now, obviously got some females driving, and they're equally as good. And I don't think there's enough women in motorsports, but that's another topic for another day. But tell us about that Octane Academy. I really want to, because that was pretty cool. Because on that one, you beat a lot of good people.
Yeah, that was, sorry to jump back and forth between my timeline here, but yeah, I ran out of my simulator racing money / business plan, et cetera, living in my car, started the dog business. But at this point, I was just a glorified dog walker and making good money, but doing that out of my house and literally hadn't seen the light of day, working 7 days a week. I think I was, like 6 years in. And I would go to X Games every year, and Ford kept having these commercials, hey, we got this driver search, Octane Academy. If you think you can drive, show up. And you could win the opportunity to win a new car and all this other stuff. And I always looked at that because my dad raced for Ford, and I'm such a Ford junkie. That's all I own.
Yeah, you are.
I've ever. And that was just such a pipe dream. And so my plan was to enter in 2013. And so I'll never forget, I still have these pathetic videos. I must have made like 40 videos of me talking to myself to why I should be the next Octane Academy dork. And never, was never happy with any of these things and never sent my video in. And then all of a sudden one morning I sit in front of my computer and I fire up Facebook, and one of my buddies is sitting in a line like a mile long, or probably literally like a quarter mile long. And he's saying, today is the day I'm going to try out for Octane Academy. And I went, oh my God, you never sent your videos in. And today's the day that you're supposed to be trying out. I called him up, told him, hey, is there any way you can hold the spot in line for me? And I said, yeah, I'll hold the spot right here. I literally hopped in my car and did 110 miles an hour out to Fontana Raceway.
Wow.
Jumped in line, got there around 10 in the morning, but these guys had all been there since 7 in the morning. And then stood in the sun all day long and waited. And around just before 5 o'clock in the evening, guy comes out. There was about 50 of us left in line. They had gone through probably close to 1,000 drivers. And they said, sorry, 5 o'clock, the ambulance leaves and we have to shut down legally. And so I'm going, oh my God, you're going to get a t-shirt and I'm sorry and a thank you. And I just couldn't believe it.
And a sunburn, because your ass probably burnt.
Yeah. And mind you, I haven't had breakfast yet because I haven't left this line. I've never, I just hopped in the car and went. And with like 7 minutes to go, they called my name. And I hopped in the car, of course, past the driver bit. And then they sent me off to the drifting section. And, you get to get in a Mustang and you have to do kind of figure eights around barrels. And I did it. And my buddy, who was also a Formula car driver who held my place in line, screwed up the first 2 tries around the barrels and then cursed. And once he cursed, I guess that was maybe a sign of aggression or frustration that wasn't allowed, meaning kind of like you lost your cool. Mm-hmm. And they were just like, that's it. And
now, was there someone in the car with you?
Yeah, they always had a pro with you, kind of getting ready to pull the e-brake and yank it out of your hand. And so I get out of the car and having passed all the tests, and I'm looking at the producers, and they're looking at me all googly eyed, but they don't say anything. And so I went home and waited and told myself, just drop it, completely forget it. And a week later, I got a phone call from one of their assistants, and they said, hey, they're considering you for the TV program. Are you still interested? And I'm just going, God, yes. Again, just drop it. Don't even think about it. And a couple weeks later, they said, you know what, this is not official, but you're going to make it. It looks like you're going to get picked. And anyway, I showed up. Tanner Faust, Brian Deegan, Vaughn Gittin Jr., and Ken Block were the coaches. I got picked by Brian Deegan. Went through all won Brian Deegan's camp, which is what
now let me stop you here for a second. So when you got that, right, and you get there, okay, obviously the producers know who you are. And when I say who you are, they don't know. I don't mean Burt, the guy that owns a dog place or this or that and the other thing. Or they know it's like, oh, this is the son of,
Right.
So
I'm
now
sure they Google the last name.
Now, all of them and even your fellow competitors, do you think? We'll get to the ending of what happened, but do you think they're like, oh fuck, the only reason he's here is this is a new thing, and this guy could probably give us publicity. Meanwhile, you always shied away from that publicity. Like, obviously there was a TV show your dad was on, but you never really were ever a part of that, like, and never wanted to be. So
there was a time where I was young enough and dumb enough where, and broke enough living in my car where I just, I would love to say I always didn't want to be a part of it, but in the very, very early age, stages, do I dare say it, before they kind of created a bad name for themselves or whatever, but before the image was kind of solidified as what it is.
Yeah.
I probably wanted to be a part of it. And
were you on any episodes?
Yeah, I was on a few.
I did see one photo. I did see one photo with you in it. I was like, oh my, I want to give shit to Burt on that one. I think you're all matching and like denim and shit. I was like, Burt probably wants to kill himself for that photo. Like, right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
That's the family Christmas photo, probably.
Yeah.
That was all Chris is doing.
But you probably hated it.
We all hated it. So there was a point where I was willing to be part of it, and it wasn't an option. Yeah. And then, as things progressed and I had my own kind of identity and everything, that's where I realized, like, no, I don't want to be part of that. And there's no place for me in it, and I'm not going to sacrifice who I am or try and make myself into something else. Yeah. And, for at that point, I had no idea what I would do with it, other than just be another sucker on a TV show.
Yeah.
That couldn't walk the streets. And, so Octane Academy, I'm sure they all thought that, hey, they just got a Kardashian on the show because, the family's going to tweet it out or Instagram about it, and it's going to help with the TV show. And heck, for what it's worth, as far as the producers are concerned, I'm sure they thought that was actually going to happen.
Yeah.
But
well, and your fellow competitors probably thought like, oh, this fucker ain't got talent. Like, he's only here for that, and we're gonna kick his ass. But then, like, tell everyone what happened. The alternative.
Yeah. The alternative was I came out there and, I hopped in the first car to do the first session. And I'm sure they wouldn't tell you times. They wouldn't tell you anything like that. But the first, judge of speed was like a road racing kind of setup on asphalt and everything. And yeah, I'm sure I had that top spot by a good margin. And I'm sure that confused some people. And Brian Deegan was smart, and just said, oh, that's it. I just, I don't even care what his last name is. That's just a bonus at this point. But, I got picked by Brian Deegan, and you could tell that Vaughn Gittin Jr., for whatever reason, took the name way too serious, and he didn't like me from the get-go. And I, heard a few comments of disapproval, and he was frustrated probably by my speed. But after getting picked by Brian and went through the camp with Brian Deegan, it was probably not something I'm gonna talk about or supposed to talk about. But yeah, he was supposed to be the coach, and after I had won his camp, you had the opportunity to essentially drive any Ford car you wanted in any type of setting that you wanted to try and train for the finale. And because in the finale, they were going to have you compete in road racing, drifting, off-road, and a rally car race. And so whichever one or two types of driving that you thought you needed the most work on, you could basically work on it. So I said, I want a Mustang and I want to learn how to drift. It was one thing, got all the racing experience in the world, but no drifting experience. And we showed up in this parking lot, and Brian is supposed to be my coach for drifting. And he had brought in a guy named Dai Yoshihara, who is, a big Japanese drifter.
Oh, yeah.
He was supposed to be the coach. And about 3 or 4 minutes after me showing up, the producers walk over with the attorneys and say, hey, sorry, Vaughn Gittin Jr. called. And he's complaining about the fact that we brought in a pro to teach you, and that's not in the rules and not fair. It has to be Brian Deegan teaching. Sorry, Di, but you have to leave. And
what a shithead.
And so Brian was left having to be the coach. Well, it was very clear within a few seconds that I could outdrift him, instantly. And I was literally spent a few minutes trying to coach Brian Deegan how to drift, even though I had no experience. And then I realized I should just shut my mouth because this was ruining TV, and proceeded to try and teach myself how to drift. Anyway, in the final episode, I won the road racing came up first. I won that challenge. That was followed by off-road, and then I won that challenge.
Of course.
So with two challenges left, we went into drifting. And so the downside is, I arguably won drifting. I'm not going to, that's the one frustrating thing also about drifting is there's no time. It's all judged.
I call it the synchronized swimming of racing, drifting,
right. So as far as points were concerned, if I won drifting, it would have ruined the TV show and it never would have gone to the 4th episode. And so Brian even said to me beforehand, hey, look, man, they're not going to let you win this. So just get your ego in check and get ready to get shot down here, even if you win. What I didn't expect was them to give me last. And, again, to make good TV, this made us tied going into the finale. A good friend of mine, Jonathan Aaron, and I went at it in rally cars. And it came down to tenths of a second both times. And but I did get lucky, and I walked away with the win. And $50,000 in cash, $50,000 credit at a Ford dealership. Yeah. I showed up with the trailer and got a brand new Ford Explorer. Told the guys, leave the cellophane on the stereo, leave the paper floor mats in the bottom of the car. I'm selling this thing, and I want people to know it's a brand new car. Listed it on Craigslist, and got $35,000 for a car that was worth $50,000. And I had put, a tenth of a mile, basically getting this thing off the dealership lot, putting it in a garage, and took all that money and started West LA Dogs.
So you sold. So you got 50 cash, and then you got another, basically 50,000 credit for a new car, but you immediately flipped that new car you won to get the cash, and then you started West LA Dogs. Because prior to West LA Dogs, you basically were walking dogs, taking care of dogs out of your house. And you remember you told me you had statute of limitations are gone now, so you can tell people you had dog cages everywhere, stacked high,
This is always a struggle of how honest am I, but yeah,
You're always honest.
I was doing it illegally, a mile and a half from Beverly Hills, out of a house in a residential neighborhood. And one Christmas, I had 73 dogs in a 2-bedroom house, which was cut in half in the 30s to widen Olympic Boulevard. To say the least, it was a tiny spot. And I had been, contacted by animal control, and they had shown up. They were so impressed that they didn't shut me down. But I knew this was a ticking time bomb. And then to top it all off, it was a grow house, a marijuana grow house for a buddy of mine. And so, to say the least, this wasn't a place that was going to last long, and not a place to start a business. And so I wanted out of there, and I knew this was my one opportunity to jump and go legit. Yeah. And so I took all that money and gambled it. I had a 3-month business plan. At that point I had never owned a new car. And I tell people all the time, both the rear view mirrors on my car were not even duct taped on. It was just packing tape. The glove box wouldn't stay closed. It would bang against your knees if you were in the passenger seat. The trunk wouldn't close. And it was coming up on 200,000 miles. So for me to walk in there with a brand new car, which I had just won essentially with my dream and my passion, and to sell it, that wasn't easy. And to gamble everything that I had ever kind of acquired on this idea was not fun. And I would wake up every morning at 4 a.m. and walk into this dog facility, this big yard, and there was no showers, so I had a little camping shower that I put in a little 5-gallon bucket, sit under a ladder that I would, kind of hang the little shower head over, and this little A-frame, and I would sit on this other 5-gallon bucket and just let the water drip over me and just try not to throw up. And that lasted months, and somehow, literally my prediction, right around the week I was going to go under, we went from the red to the black. And now we've got 25 employees, and payroll is, almost 150 grand a month, and getting ready to start our second facility. And it's just wild to think that if I wasn't able to gamble that 85 grand, stupidly, like only a race car driver would, I wouldn't be here today doing what I am.
Yeah, but you're a Jenner, and you're Burt Jenner, and you are your own person, and to me, like, one of the nicest guys. I mean, you could be one of the meanest guys, but you're one of the nicest guys I know. And when you call someone a friend, that has some impact to it. And like I said, on the racetrack, you and EJ Vizo can be enemies, but I guarantee it, if EJ Vizo, Paul Morris, Ari Leindeck, any of your brothers called you up tomorrow and said, I need help, you're going to be there for them, and with as much as you can give. And you're literally the type of friend that would give the shirt off your back to your friend, even if it meant you were to be homeless again. That's now, obviously you'd like to figure out a plan to do the opposite. Like, hey, let's figure out how we're not homeless. But
look, and here's the weird part of me, man. I've got hundreds of acres now up in Tahoe, and rental properties, and I just started an RV company. Nice. And man, that old Bronco and my dog Ernie, not that I don't love my boys and Valor and everything, but man, there's something about that life which I still have to admit I enjoyed and I miss.
It was that simplistic lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Do they call it minimalist now, guys? I think they call it that. The minimalist.
I think so, yeah.
That's a word you could use, yeah.
Do you ever mess with cats? Do you have cats at your place? No? Okay. Steven's a big cat guy, but
I'm allergic to dogs. I'm allergic. That's my reaction.
I'm a very big dog lover, so I'm with you, Bert.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just something about that life which is pretty simple, and dreams and goals are, I think, kind of invaluable to someone's psyche. So as you get older and accomplish more things, it's like, well, what's next? I feel like the downside to the human psyche is there's always got to be the next thing. And as you accomplish more, you run out of those next things.
Yeah.
I guess for me now, it just seems to be aviation. I want to get a
really?
plane. Yeah.
All right. So do you have that love from your father? Because a lot of people don't know this, that your father is also a very accomplished pilot.
Very accomplished would kind of be an understatement.
Yeah.
I think my dad, you have to be a hardcore junkie to be able to expect this number.
Well, we don't want to keep feeding her ego. So, it's like kidding. But yeah, your dad, when she does something, she kicks ass at it. So
yeah, obsesses.
Yep.
She went down the RC helicopter obsession for a while, golf, but aviation has always been a love of my father's. So
yeah.
It's kind of the old man's race car, I guess. Just
so do you practice on her plane or no?
Not the current one.
Yeah.
Little complex. It's a twin engine stuff. It's just not safe for someone who's not proficient to be flying, I guess.
Oh, so you're not as good as your father in that yet?
I'm not as experienced.
Smart answer.
Smart answer.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. That's funny. So do you have a pilot's license, or you're training to get it?
I'm 20 hours into my 40. Every time I get my hours start to get built up, it seems like life throws me a curveball and I have to go and go back and do other things like I am now. So just trying to keep the business alive. Good old COVID.
Oh, COVID must have just destroyed a lot of small businesses. So how are you doing with that? Are you're hanging in there? And
so unfortunately for me, about a month before COVID hit, I decided to expand into my second location. So yes, the original location is doing great. The second location, I'm just sitting paying rent on, and it just sits completely empty.
Empty, yeah.
So that's a challenge, but business seems to be coming back quick. Trying to keep my fingers crossed here. There's no second shutdown or anything like that, and I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, is the second location close by to the first location in West Hollywood, or
300 yards away? So
okay, was that your idea to like the big dogs over here and the small dogs over here? Okay, yeah.
So I just wanted it. Right now, it seems like the little dogs feel like they're second-class citizens. So
yeah,
I wanted the little dogs to have their own spot where they get to be the kings. And little dog owners, some of them are nervous. They don't like being around dogs or whatever it is. So this gives them the opportunity. Hey, it's nothing to worry about. You got your own spot.
Yeah, your little poodle's not going to be next to a pit bull or whatever. Yeah,
right.
Something like that. But wow, that's a great idea. But anyone in that area, obviously they love their dogs and they'll spend anything. Like I just had my one bulldog had its ACL went. That was a $5,000 surgery, and then it had a prolapse urethra. So whatever was coming out of its penis.
Ouch.
Had that was another $3,500 surgery. As a man, I'm like, my daughters are like, big deal. I'm like, no, you don't understand. So the point is we love our dogs. And, I think that if anyone's out there in that West Hollywood area, man, your place is like your dog will be taken care of better at Burt's, at West LA Dogs, better than you'll take care of your dogs. Believe me.
Yeah, it was always a fairly simple business plan, and I probably should admit this to the owners, but it was always just, I want your dog to like me more than it likes you.
Yeah. And they do.
And so that was one of those weird deals where, originally when I was doing this out of my house, there was no garage. Obviously, the garage was full of other things.
Yeah, toys.
But so my dirt bikes and mountain bikes and everything would be sitting in the living room, and they would come in just, what the hell is this guy? But my dog loves him, I don't understand. He's crazy, but my dog loves him.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters, at the end of the day is that relationship with the dog. So it's easy for me and rewarding for me. So I'm a true dog weirdo.
Well, this could be a 10-part episode because you have some great stories and so do I. But, thank you for coming on here and telling your story and getting people. And, surprisingly, the Thrillcast has been doing pretty well, which allows us to keep doing this. But having awesome guests on like you that, are interesting. Everything you're doing is interesting, from the way you lived your life to how, listen, yeah, you have a famous father and wealthy parents, but you were like, I'm Burt Jenner, I'm me, and, I'm not going to, they're not offering help, but I'm not going to take it even if they did, and I'm going to figure it out, because everything Burt Jenner owns is because of Burt Jenner and his wife and your two beautiful, beautiful children. And that's, I believe, your why, probably one of the nicest guys I know and with the biggest heart. So, Burt, I appreciate you coming on to this show and supporting me in this new endeavor.
Well, I love you, my man. And it was, like I said, about 30 minutes before this, I just got all excited. And to the rest of my SSD family, if you're out there, I miss you and I love you guys too. And that was some good time.
Well, I hope this lived up to your excitement in SST, and hopefully I can get out there soon to round 2 for Wave Runner fun. We'll go to Catalina Island this time.
Let's do it, my man.
Tell Caitlin we're going to use her Wave Runner.
Yeah.
Well, we weren't supposed to tell that.
Yeah, I know. No, my dad doesn't care. That's what they're there for.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Burt. And everyone, be good. Boom.